Well, thank you all for coming. It's always so great to see all this from down here. Um, yeah, I'm Susanne Pieterse, and today I'm gonna take you on my journey, what I've learned while I was integrating RAG in our legacy systems. And I have to squeeze my normal conference talk into less than 15 minutes. So if you want to learn everything, just scan the QR code and download the ebook. Then you can have everything. Or come to the Utrecht Jug in May and I can do the full talk. And maybe while you are scanning this QR code and give you some time, I'm gonna do the mandatory selfie on stage because this really needs to be in my yearbook this year. So, all right. Yeah, it all started in the Christmas break of 2023. I was just lying on the couch and YouTube gave me a video of Josh Long where he introduced RAG with Spring AI. And well, lying on the couch, seeing the video. And at the end of the video, I was sitting straight up and ran to my desk. And I cloned his repo. And I have no idea where my vacation went. But by the end of, by the start of the new year, I had to go to work. And I was convinced that we had to do something with this. And my employer, OpenAI Software Group, builds archiving software for municipalities and central governments. And how cool would it be if our archive, we can ask it a question and it talks back. And I could convince my manager and I was able to build it. And well, I'm gonna share my lessons while I was doing that. And first, a little bit about RAG, and I'm really gonna keep it short. Why do you want to use RAG? Well, you want to use RAG because an LLM is trained on open information. And if I hope that your proprietary information is not in this training set of the LLM, so it does not know anything about it. And with RAG, you can get the information to the LLM, and it will make sure that it answers just with the information that you give it. So that's without training the model. That's why you do it. RAG consists, in my opinion, in 3 steps. You create ingestion. That's where you just create your whole knowledge base. Then you do a retrieval part, and with what you retrieved, you do the augmentation to the LLM, and that is what you do. The ingestion pipeline, for each document, you have to extract the text, then you cut the text in chunks, and each chunk goes to the embedding model. And this embedding model creates vectors, and these vectors are combined with a chunk, stored into the vector database. That's ingestion. Retrieval is when you have the question of the user. You send this question to the embedding model, you create a vector out of that. This vector is used to do a similarity search in the vector store. Then you get a certain amount of similar embeddings, and you get the text from these embeddings, and then you have hopefully the answer to the question of the user. Then the augmentation part. You start with, or you just grabbed the plain text, which probably contains the answer to the question. You have the user question, and together with a system prompt that says something like, use the information that I sent you to answer the question of the user. Or otherwise, if you don't have enough information, just say so, don't make anything up. That's the idea. You send the whole thing to the large language model, and this model does its magic and creates a good answer. And that's also another text, and that you can use to send to your user. So that's RAG in a nutshell. To do this, you need quite a lot of separate services. We all tie together with a backend, but you need a document source, of course, the vector database, an LLM, an embedding model, which are separate things. And if you do it write, you should use another service that helps you with extracting data, text, and do the chunking. And we use Docklink for this. The first thing is you have to choose the right library. When I started out, I started with Spring AI, and it works like a charm. But I needed something else. I needed something to do with metadata. And by the time I was doing this in 2024, somewhere around this time in the year, and I couldn't find it in the documentation of Spring AI. I'm not saying it wasn't there, but I could not find it. And LangChain4j had it very easily. It worked in just one line of code. So I rewrote the application, and you start using LangChain4j and never went back. And those were the choices that I had. Now you have also a framework called Babel, which is also very interesting. But you have to make sure to keep an eye on the release notes, because these libraries are evolving very quickly and breaking changes happen. So keep an eye on that. The other one is you have to find the right vector database. In our case, we needed something lightweight because we had to host it ourselves. It should be scalable because a lot of information is in our document systems. So it should be scalable. Well documented is very nice. We're already on the bleeding edge of technology, so a little bit easier to read some good documentation. And for us, metadata into the vector database was very important. We ended up using Milvus, which is really simple, easy to use, and Elasticsearch for another application. One of the lessons that I learned was that it was very important to make sure that the vector and dimensions of the database schema matches the ones of your embedding model. Otherwise, you get a very annoying exception. So just keep an eye on that. Third one, the retrieval algorithm. The fact is that k-nearest neighbor algorithm is the best one you can use, and most of the vector databases utilize this. But if you have a large data set, it will become slow. So there's another option that you can start, for example, with approximate nearest neighbor and then go to the KNN. I hope I have time to a little bit explain. KNN algorithm is like the red dot in the middle, and if you want the K3, so the three nearest vectors to find, then you just look around and find the 3 or the 6 or the 10 or the 100, whatever you want. But you can understand if you have a lot of these dots, then you should try something else, or it will take a long time. And ANN, you could think of it like this: that if you're looking for your Airbnb here in Amsterdam, you're not knocking on each door when you enter the city border. You just first look on the map, you find the neighborhood, then you find the street, and then maybe if you're close in the street, then you start looking at the house numbers. That is what you do with ANN, and then when you're looking at the house numbers, you could see that as KNN. So that's an algorithm that's really good to use. The other one is maximum marginal relevance. Usually with similarity search, it will just find the most similar things, and then you get similar things. In this case, there are 4 the same kebabs. So that's effectively just one piece of information that you add to the context. With MMR, it will just add 1, and then you get 10 different things to add to your context. In that case, you have more diverse information for your LLM to work with. So lessons learned is to make sure that your vector database, you could utilize these kinds of algorithms, because that will help you get the best out of it. Fourth, choose an LLM embedding model. In both cases, we started out with the Cloud API. That worked fast, it was good answers, but our clients find it very important that data sovereignty, for example, they don't want to send private information to a public cloud, or big tech clouds. So we also tried it out with self-hosted LLMs, with Ollama, for example, and with an embedding model that works perfect. For the LLMs, that was a little bit harder. It was slower, not as polished, but it worked. And what's very important in this case is that you have the operational costs versus the hardware costs. If you use a cloud API, you have to pay the tokens, and if you self-host it, you will have to pay the hardware, and that's even more expensive now than it was 2 years ago. So you have to keep an eye on that. Then text quality is also important. You probably all have copied something in a PDF, and then you get like a real messy text. If you cut a messy text into pieces, an LLM is not a magician. So shit in, shit out, is not helping. So what you have to do is make sure that the text is clean and structured, that you add headings, for example, and a tool like Dockling or Unstructured can help you with this. The chunking is very important, but it's not just cutting it into pieces of, for example, 100 characters. You have to look at the size of the chunk and see if it, in the structure, and see if it really fits the kind of document. A report has a different structure than a letter, for example. So make sure to keep an eye on that. And I'm going to say it really fast to see the clock running. Then access rights, and this is very important for us. And the document management system we use is very good in access rights to documents, and it was very important for us not to expose information to users that they are otherwise not been able to access. And we could do this by adding the UUID of the document from the document management system as metadata into the vector store. So when we retrieve the information, we could use the retrieval augmenter of LangChain4j to check if each retrieved part was from a document that the user can access or not. If he's not allowed to access it, we will remove it from the piece of retrieved information, so it will never go out to the LLM. So that's very important. You have to filter it. And another part is that it's very important to add an audit trail and make sure that you create trust by adding references to the document so the user can always check it back. Then you have to add a no answer policy, and the whole idea was that it was not making stuff up, and in this case, if it doesn't have the information, it should be really sure that it doesn't. And while an LLM is not trusted, users are not to be trusted too, so you have to add at least input and output validation with guardrails to your thing. Right. And then the 10th, it's very important to measure your cost and with observability, because if there is a spike, that's usually a detection of a pattern that something is going wrong, and usually your manager also would like to know if it's going to be expensive. All right, these are the takeaways of my talk. I'm at the end, so I made it. You have to prep into have to invest in the preparation. You have to match your tools, for example, the dimensions. Choose your database wisely. Chunk intentionally. Make sure that access rights are reserved if you need it. Show the work. Be transparent where it comes from. Command, don't ask, and monitor everything. So thank you very much. And don't forget to vote for my talk.